Just in here on HQ. The Cincinnati Bengals are pushing back against some of the proposed adjustments to the AFC playoff picture resulting from their game against the Bills being declared a no contest. NFL owners are meeting today to finalize their plans, and our Jonathan Jones reports that the Bengals brass is trying to rally votes against the plan. At issue is a potential wild card game between the Ravens and Bengals, where home field advantage would be determined by a coin flip. The Bengals have already been crowned the winners of the AFC North, regardless of what happens in their head-to-head matchup on Sunday afternoon. But if the Ravens win in Week 18, they will have swept the season series against Cincinnati, and the teams will both finish with 11 wins. So now with the man who's been on this all week long, our lead NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. JJ, I know you've stayed busy. This situation first, when we were figuring out, okay, when we get back to football, what's going to happen between that game with the Bills and the Bengals, and now as we get to the other side of that, seeing that Hamlin is doing so much better, what do you make of this situation and what's the latest?
So the postseason proposal that came out, and it came from the NFL's competition committee. Interestingly enough, Katie Blackburn, who is the executive vice president of the Bengals, she essentially runs the day-to-day operations for the Bengals. She's on the competition committee. And normally what happens when the competition committee meets and proposes a rule change, it's sent to Roger Goodell. He says, hey, this is what this committee is for. It then goes to ownership. And ownership more or less rubber stamps a number of these, especially more minor proposals from the competition committee. This is not a minor one. This is an unprecedented situation. It is involving number one seeds. It is involving home field advantage. And so the NFL is getting creative here with their proposal. The issue here with that creativity is there is a rule book. There is a policy manual that the NFL has that clearly lays out what happens if a game is canceled. And that is what has happened with the Bills and the Bengals game. It was ruled a no contest, not a tie, a no contest. It was canceled. Those two teams will wind up playing 16 games while everyone else plays 17. And the rule book very clearly states that if a game is canceled and you have to figure out playoff seedings and what happens there, you rely upon winning percentage. And so the Bengals are sitting here saying, all right, if we have this on the books, why aren't we following that? Instead, what the NFL, what the competition committee tried to sort of improvise and put together is a situation that tries to inject a little bit more equity, a little bit more fairness into the process, where Roger Goodell said in a statement, we know it's not perfect. Well, what you have right now is a Bengals team that says, well, if we lose this weekend, and we've now been swept in the season series, but we are still the AFC North division champs, we should get the home game. Any other year, the 3 seed gets to play at home against the 6 seed. And so now it's a coin flip. It's a 50-50 proposition if the scenario on Sunday winds up playing out, and we may lose that coin flip. And so that's what the Bengals are pushing back on right now, Zach. And they're trying to get support from around the NFL. You need 9 votes to reject this proposal. You need more than a quarter to reject this proposal. Well, who's going to side with the Bengals here? Ultimately, this is something that doesn't impact every team. It only impacts a maximum of 4 teams. It's the Bills, the Chiefs, the Bengals, and the Ravens to an extent. And so where Katie Blackburn has to really try here on this Zoom call at noon Eastern is to tell owners, hey, let's not get in the business and let's not set the precedent of changing postseason rules a week plus out. We have these rules on the books. Let's follow what the books say.
Do you have any sense of how you think the owners might go, given that, like you said, there's not much incentive for the other teams to vote no on this if they're not even affected by it?
So right now, the sentiment that I'm hearing from around the league is that this will still be voted through. But Katie Blackburn can absolutely make her case. She made her case in a very lengthy email to NFL ownership late last night. Also, she will certainly, stand up as one stands up on a Zoom call and continue to make the case. I'll tell you this. The Cincinnati Bengals are a team that have come to be known at these owners' meetings as the team where when it's a unanimous vote, or it should be a unanimous 32-0 vote, it winds up being a 31-1 vote. And the Bengals are the ones who normally vote no. I don't know that that's engendered them a whole lot of favor around the league. All that said, you would hope that no matter the feelings are about previous owners' meetings, that those NFL team owners could sit there and say, okay, well, what's fair? What's right? And so you have the obstacle of this isn't actually impacting anyone else other than these four teams, and only in very specific scenarios. That's first. And then secondly, where she really has to really, talk to the NFL owners and try to get an Art Rooney, for example, a Jerry Jones, a Robert Kraft, someone who can really whip up a room and get more votes on their side. I don't know that that ultimately is going to happen. Folks that I talked to this morning think that this is still going to be pushed through, but if she makes a very compelling case, if she gets folks on her side, can one vote turn into two, turn into six, maybe get to nine? Certainly possible.
The point that you brought up about the Bengals wanting to say, okay, let's not change the precedent here a week before the playoffs continue. With that in mind, then what's the thought process of why not everyone just go ahead and vote no? Like, let's not change things. Let's keep it as is.
I mean, I think that's a very fair point. And I can certainly see the Bengals' perspective. Zach, you and I have been talking all week about this situation in particular, obviously about Damar Hamlin and his improved status, certainly, but also about what happens next with the NFL and if that game would be canceled or no contest. And we're able to dig into the rule book. We're able to get the policy manual from NFL game operations. And this is what it says now. It's interesting because a game in the NFL has never started, been postponed, and never resumed. Never before in the NFL has that happened. Also, not since 1935 have teams played fewer games than other teams. And that was when Boston and Philadelphia had bad weather. They had to cancel that game. And so those two teams played one fewer game than everyone else. And so while you have these rules on the books and you have planned for this contingency is now reality. And instead of going off of what is on the books, the NFL has said, well, you know what? We've never really faced this before in modern NFL. And now that we are facing it, maybe it's not the fairest, especially with 1 week before the postseason, especially as it relates to the number one overall seed, the only team that gets the playoff bye, the only team that gets home field advantage throughout their conference's playoffs. And so maybe we should tweak it. And so if you look at it through that lens, the NFL is saying we haven't faced this before. Now that we need to make it more equitable. If you're looking at it from Cincinnati's viewpoint or someone who is just steeped in precedent, you would say, hey, we've already considered it. That's what's on the books. Let's keep it that way.
Jonathan Jones staying a very busy man and always on top of everything. NFL doing a killer job. Thank you, Jonathan, for waking up this morning with us with the latest news surrounding the Bengals as the NFL gets ready to have a vote about what will go on with the cancellation of that Bengals-Bills game and the ramifications. The Bengals pushing for a no vote, according to our insider Jonathan Jones, because it could end up in a situation where a coin flip would determine who would be the home team between the Ravens and the Bengals. So a lot to still be sorted out coming up here later on today. Make sure you tap in with the Pick Six podcast for all things football during the NFL season here. Log in with Will Brinson, Wine Wilson, and Brady Quinn. They're on the latest episode there. Like and subscribe. Get the audio wherever you want. NFL season still heating up.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.